half of what it was before I took office. The only president ever to cut the deficit by more than $1 trillion in a single year. By more than $1 trillion in a single year.
It wasn't until more than half the speech was over the president even mentioned the pandemic, announcing a new program to test and treat the virus by making antiviral pills available over the counter at pharmacies. And the president brought up his recent trip to New York in the wake of the executions of NYPD.
In early 80s. When runaway inflation was hammering families, a violent crime wave was crashing our cities, and the Soviet army was trying to redraw the world map.
Of course, in the middle of all this remains the crisis in Ukraine, and today the Russian offensive only mounted as the refugee crisis continued intensifying. Here's Eyewitness News reporter Jim Dolan.
The Ukrainian media tower stood tall after a direct strike from the Russian military today in town after town. Russian missiles laid waste to residential neighborhoods in Zhytomyr, western Ukraine. The missiles ignited fires near a hospital. At least 2 people were killed. Other videos circulating on social media shows tanks near Kyiv blasting away at homes and shops filled with civilians. And in Kharkiv, a cruise missile makes a direct hit on a government building there. At least 6 people were killed, none of them soldiers.
Russian strikes are hitting schools, hospitals, residential buildings. They're destroying critical infrastructure. Russia is doing this every day across Ukraine.
Putin expected that within a very short period of time, within 2 days, he will rise up the Russian flag on the Ukrainian capital. This is not happening.
That's thanks largely to an emboldened citizens militia. In Melitopol today, students blocked Russian military vehicles. Some laid down in the street to stop them. But limited victories will surely come at a steep cost.
My fear is, after hearing the intelligence, is that Vladimir Putin will become increasingly desperate, deranged, delusional. He seems to be now, and will resort to measures that are ever more cruel, brazen, brutal in Ukraine.
Perhaps that convoy of Russian vehicles headed to Kyiv is closing in, but there are reports from the front that Russian soldiers are suffering from poor morale and shortages of food and fuel. And even as many Ukrainian families head to the border to escape the carnage, many others will stay and fight.
We want to fight for our country, for our freedom. We have freedom in our head.
Jim Dolan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Meanwhile, Ukrainians here in Brooklyn are going above and beyond. This entire truck will be filled with medicine by tomorrow morning. I'm Lucy Yang with the growing humanitarian effort from New York.
And that is coming up. And be sure to stay with Eyewitness News and ABC News as we keep on top of the situation in Ukraine. We'll have updates on air and at ABC7NY whenever news breaks. Lee?
Turning to AccuWeather, Sade and Bill, March off to a decent